Thanks so much for joining us. You know, at this point, we keep hearing mention of the least worst option for a Brexit deal. To you, how indicative is that of the shambles this process has become? And doesn't the UK public deserve better than the least bad option in this case?
Well, you're absolutely right. And what's happening is that trust in how Theresa May has been handling it has been very low, has fallen for the government as a whole as well. I think people are concerned about where we go from here. But what we're seeing is that it is obvious that a no-deal scenario would be very bad for the economy. I think that's now generally accepted, and I don't think anyone is going to let that happen. But what is being discussed at present is whether we can think of ways in which we can have something which will affect the economy least. We know that no deal is the worst scenario. We know that just a free trade agreement doesn't really cover services and loads of other areas of the economy that are going to be affected quite significantly if we don't trade as easily with the EU as we do now. There have been all these other options, Norway, Norway plus, Canada, Canada plus, which is rather hard Brexit. But what is going to be discussed, we believe, today is the possibility of a customs union becoming a sort of permanent part of what is negotiated in the future between the UK and the EU. That way you solve up to a point, but you also need the single market, but up to a point, the Northern Ireland issue, the border issue, which is a big bone of contention at present. And you could then add all sorts of other things to it. But it's not the only thing. I think there will be, again, a debate about a possible referendum, a people's vote, to approve or disapprove any deal that may come through against remaining in the EU. So there's quite a lot of discussion at present on exactly what you said. How can we get to a deal which is perhaps better than what Theresa May has brought forward, but satisfies at the same time both the Remainers and the Brexiteers?
Let me ask you, though, on that people's vote. I mean, we have 11 days left, officially. At this point, aren't really the options, because the only deal on the table has failed by historic margins, go back to the people with the deal to either stay in the European Union or crash out with no deal? Because we always know Theresa May had always said no deal is better than a bad deal.
Well, she has, I think, changed her mind on that. And I think certainly her cabinet isn't going to allow that to happen. I think politically it's an impossible situation to imagine. Because the cabinet, quite a lot of it will resign, and also Parliament will revolt. They've already voted quite clearly and overwhelmingly, even though it was only an indicative non-binding vote, to not accept a no deal, should it come to pass at all. So what I think will happen, if we can't get the current deal Theresa May has brought through, is that one will have to go back and ask for a further extension and explain that perhaps a people's vote is planned, or, as people are also contemplating, a general election if one can't move forward in any other way.
Vicky, let me ask you quickly, though. I mean, from the EU's perspective, do they have to give that extension because the UK set this deadline and the UK has not met that deadline? How much responsibility does the EU have to keep extending the time and the work that the EU will have to do as a result of it?
I think the EU will accept an extension. Of course, there is an issue of whether the UK will then take part in the European elections, and that's a big question mark. I don't think they really want the UK out, even though they're getting fed up with the way we've been negotiating. So I think they will give the extension. If there is any danger of them not giving it, then I think the Parliament still has the ability, the government has the ability to revoke Article 50 unilaterally.